Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Los Angeles and Orange County National Human Resources Association Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion event. We are going to be kicking off in roughly 4 minutes. So up until that point, we will be waiting for everyone to jump in, and you'll just see the screen playing, but we will be back momentarily. Okay, good afternoon once again. For those of you who weren't on earlier, we'll do a brief recap. My name is Andrew Agris. I am the president of the Los Angeles National Human Resources Association. I am thrilled to be coming to you today to present LA and Orange County's NHRA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion session. This is the first session of 4 in this program. And we are thrilled to have you here and look forward to sharing the information and hard work that the council has put together. I was sharing with the council earlier today that if there's anything that I've been more proud of during my time at NHRA, it's been the work that the council has done on this DE&I council. So we are thrilled to have you here. I also want to give a quick shout out to Shannon Ashworth with Orange County NHRA, who has also been involved in the council and done absolutely incredible work to help keep us organized and stay on track. So we have a lot of information that we need to get through today, and we are going to keep our opening remarks very short and brief because we want to get through as much content as possible. Jerry, would you mind going on to the next slide? As we mentioned, we wanted to give some quick love to the council themselves. The council, this is a volunteer organization, so the council has been doing endless amounts of work to bring this first session to you, and we'll continue to do so for session 2, 3, and 4. So thank you to all of our council members. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your passion. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, because none of this is possible without our sponsors. For Los Angeles, that is Bolton & Company, Challenger Gray and Christmas, Cressa, Fisher Phillips, Sageview, Into, Rufka Recruiting Services, and UCLA Extension. For Orange County, we'd like to thank Apex Executive Search, Leaderology, Bolton & Company, OC Tanner, Challenger Gray and Christmas, Burnham, Ultimate Software, and Lee Hecht Harrison. So I'm going to hand this over to Jerry, who's going to be leading us and hosting us throughout today's session. One last note, we will be jamming all of this content in until 5:30. We want to make sure we get through all of this content and close by 5:30. That said, we will be holding questions into the end. And if you have time and have questions that you'd like to ask our speaker or our panelists, then we will do so at 5:30 following. So if you're interested, please stay on after 5:30, but we will do our best to wrap all of the content that we prepared for you today by 5:30. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Jerry Gonzalez. Jerry, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Welcome everybody to this afternoon's session 1 of our DEI journey. We want to make sure that everybody understands what today's learning journey is. So first, we're going to be joined by the indomitable Paul Martin, who's our Chief Diversity Officer and Senior Vice President of Sony Pictures Entertainment, in a fireside chat for you all to understand how executives are thinking about this issue of diversity, equity, inclusion. And then where the rubber hits the road is we're going to actually have a case consultation with my colleagues, Barb Francis and Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, who will actually walk you through real life examples of how you actually can bring DEI work into an organization. Like Andrew said, we'll be taking questions at the end, so hold all your questions, but feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat. So before we start, we want to talk a little bit about the reasons behind DE&I. And in the wake of George Floyd's death, lots of organizations are either retrofitting their DE&I initiatives, or they're really thinking about how to start those things, really from a moral imperative place, right? That it's the right thing to do. But what we'll share with you also is that there is a strong business strategy and a business reason why you want to actually have diversity, equity, inclusion. Scott Page, for instance, wrote a whole book called The Diversity Bonus that basically talked about the fact that cognitive diversity actually builds more equipped teams to solve problems, and that there is actually a correlation between cognitive diversity and identity diversity. And McKinsey and Company actually did a study where they saw that it actually affects your bottom line. In terms of profitability, you can actually increase profitability by 35% if you were able to tap into the power of diversity in your organizations, especially at the upper echelons. So here's the first question, and it's all going to go out to the panelists. But what we'd love to hear is in chat, we'd love to share, for you all to share with us, if you were to calculate the amount of profit you had last year and multiply that by 35%, what would that look like? And what could that fund if you had an additional 35% worth of profit? Go ahead and answer in chat. And while you're doing that, we're gonna talk to you a little bit more about this McKinsey study. McKinsey actually showed that if we were able to close the gender gap by 2025, that would result in a $12 trillion gross domestic product. Not billion, not million, a $12 trillion increase. And if we simply just looked at the financial inclusion of Black Americans and brought in their services, that would result in a $2 billion increase. So for all you folks that are simply looking at D&I initiatives as moral and imperative, when you're looking and running a for-profit industry, this is actually going to bring in your profits. Got some good thoughts there. We're going to come back to all your thoughts that you're putting into your chat in a little bit. One important thing that you should all think about as you start your D&I journeys and start doing this important work is starting with definitions. And this is going to be your pro tip number one. Really, in your organizations, you're going to want to come up with your set of definitions and what each of these terms mean to you and beyond. Because we use a lot of jargon in D&I, and oftentimes people have different entry points. So what you have on screen right now, I'm not going to read back to you, but these are the pieces of information and definitions that we're using on the D&I Council as we go through this 4-part series. And don't worry about feeling like you have to write this down or take a screenshot. You're going to get a copy of this PowerPoint afterwards. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up a poll. And with this poll, we want to test where you are on your own DEI journey. And what we've done here is taken an original concept by Bailey Jackson and Rita Hardiman on where your organizations might be in terms of the gradient of development towards an anti-racist organization. We've put some indicators on screen, the scales from 1 to 6, and we're going to launch a poll, and we're going to ask you, if we were to ask you today, where in your organization's life cycle of D&I development are you, where would you be? And that poll should be live now. We have about 180 people, so we're going to wait a couple minutes just to see where people are at. We've got about 25% people voting at this point. Got some good engagement. About 100 people. We're going to close it off in, I don't know, 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're going to go ahead and share the results. And so most folks are in that kind of middle range, either at the symbolic change or the identity change. And for the 3% of you that are fully inclusive, I, Anita, and Barb want to talk to you because you are in a transformed type of organization. You are going to be the next people talking in our webinars in the near future. But with that, we want to go ahead and introduce Paul Martin, who is the Chief Diversity Officer of Sony Pictures Entertainment. And let me see if I can find Paul and spotlight him. And Paul has graciously joined us today with his really busy schedule to really talk about how they're thinking about the work at Sony Pictures. So Paul, how are you doing? It's good to see you today.
Well, first of all, thank you